Hello and welcome to the Adroit Dojo podcast. This is episode 27, the 7 types of strength. And we have a bonus one, odd position strength. Surprisingly, this is one I have not done yet until now. But hey, now I can knock it out. So, as I said, there are 7 types of strength. There is explosive, speed, agility, odd position, maximum strength, endurance, relative, and starting. So maximum strength is what we are used to when someone says strength training or strength. So the definition of maximal strength is the maximum force an individual's muscle can produce in a single voluntary effort, regardless of the rate of force production, as per NASM 2018. It's activities such as powerlifting, weightlifting, and strongman. Agility or agile strength is the ability to decelerate and control the muscle to create multiplanar movement and change direction. Speed strength is the ability to generate a force quickly to create rapid acceleration. So it's pretty confusing because when we generally associate with agility, we're thinking of speed strength. But they are intrinsically tied together. Since, let's take basketball for example, running back and forth or doing ankle breakers. It requires a lot of speed strength and agile strength to suddenly go one direction, immediately stop, and accelerate to another direction. Next up is explosive strength, which is producing a maximum amount of force in a minimum amount of time. So a good example of this is weightlifting, as I mentioned with maximum strength. And another example of this might be box jumps or other activities where you want to, under a load of either your body weight or an external load, get to point B quickly. Whereas maximal strength, it doesn't matter too much how long it takes to get to point B. Then there's relative strength, and that is where you're generating force per body weight, or generating, the amount of force generated per unit of body weight. So that's really weird, makes no sense kind of definition. It is the more calisthenic type activities, so running, jumping, pull-ups, push-ups, things where you're moving your body, and just your body, in planes of motion, getting from point A to B. So there is no external weight. So bar stars is a good example of relative strength. Starting strength is producing force at the beginning of a movement without momentum or a pre-stretch or preload mechanical energy. So you're starting from a stationary position. So a good example of this is, I actually don't know. A good example of this would be boxing guard position, throwing a punch. And then odd strength position is the ability to generate strength in a suboptimal physical position. So as you've noticed, all 8 of these are important for us, which sucks as a martial artist, because each one can require a specific type of training. Now there is a lot of carryover between one another, but some of these will require a bit more specific type of training, especially such as starting strength or odd position. So that's why I would consider martial artists the most physically demanding and physically fit of the sport athletes out there, is because not only do we require every single aspect of strength, but we also require flexibility, balance, hand-eye coordination, and all the other aspects of physical fitness. So it's very demanding, but luckily, just training your martial art is actually a good way to develop odd position strength. So there is a plus. Now, starting with the most important type of strength for a martial artist who is training for self-defense / street fight / military security application is explosive strength. Some of the benefits to that is reduced reaction time, the ability to quickly get to point A, point B, or let's say you are in their side control, you have the ability to get in position and then quickly explode out to be able to free yourself. Someone with very minimal explosive strength will have a harder time. They'll have to rely on a maximum level of technique, which is very hard to do in such situations. Another benefit is it actually, by training it, it improves resiliency in your muscle fiber, tendons, ligaments, and all that, because they have been trained to be able to very quickly expand or contract under strain and weight. So some good examples of training exercises is power cleans, regular cleans, jump squats, doing snatch, one-handed snatch, kettlebell swings, clapping push-ups, things like that. If you just go on Google, you can find a full, actually sprints. Sprints are a great explosive activity as well. But as I was saying, go on Google, you can find full body regimens for building up strength. Just remember, with explosive training, you want to keep the reps low. You want to be maximally explosive. You want to be quick. So a lot of times you'll have to really reduce the weight in the beginning. Then next up is speed / agility. They are intrinsically tied together, so I'm going to combine them. What's great about it is some of their benefits are minimizing reaction time, of course enhancing athletic performance, and it reduces the time of the stretch shorten cycle, which is great. It also improves the resiliency of muscle and connective tissue to reduce the risk of injuries. But pretty much all of these training methodologies will do it for their respective application. So agility and speed, it's one of those where if you're not underweight, you will be able to, or underload, you should be able to do some more reps in the 10 plus category, but not always, because what am I thinking of? Things such as sprints, you won't be able to do that many of. Ladder drills is a good method for creating strength and agility, speed and agility. And also practicing, let's say, boxing footwork or grappling wise, the various positional changes are a very good way to improve speed and agility. And as you'll quickly find out, you really want to focus on having good movement and good speed, so a lot of times you won't be able to do that many reps in the beginning. But luckily, it's also a good way to build relative strength and muscle endurance. Next up is odd position strength. This one is broken down into 3 categories, and I'm going to have to pause this for a second. So odd position strength further breaks down into 3 categories, which is dead strength, odd position strength, and agile strength. Dead strength will be things such as baling hay. So you're not in an optimum position to pick up said hay bale. You're usually using a baling fork, and all the weight is very far from your center line. And then there's odd position strength. I think a good example of that might be judo, where you're not in a great position, but you're getting your opponent off balance, and you get in close to them, and then you apply leverage. So it's a very odd position at times. Another good example of this might be breakdancing. So you're definitely in very odd positions when doing some of the power moves of breakdancing, maybe windmill or flares, things like that. And then there's agile strength, as I mentioned, and that is kettlebell swings is kind of one of them. Lateral kettlebell swings is definitely one of them. Like a shuffle swing with like a kettlebell. The reason odd position strength is so important is because as a martial artist, we're never in optimum form to apply our strength or agility against our opponent. Like, let's say you're in their guard, but they start doing a triangle. And so a good method to get out is to basically deadlift them, pick them up, and then slam them. You're not in optimal deadlift position for that. So odd positional strength training will definitely help with that. The other example I used, of course, is judo. But then there's also, let's say you're on bottom position and they have mount, and you need to either strike them, sweep them, or do a submission. You're definitely out of optimal position for traditional lifts for any of that. So odd positional strength training is definitely useful, and as I mentioned before, luckily just practicing martial arts will help with that. If you practice sweeping people from various guards, you'll get better at it and you'll get stronger in those motions. And then you can also go online, find specific workouts for odd positional strength training, and train that. There's a fitness company called Viper. They have specialized equipment and they have workouts you can find online, I believe. And you don't need to buy their Viper. You can use, as I mentioned, like a kettlebell or a Z-bar / curl bar and other things like that. And what's cool about the curl bar is if you want, you can add weight to one end and not the other to really amplify how freaking odd it is. So just an example of some dead strength ones, there's the deadlifting things from a lunge position. So let's say you put a medicine ball on a table, you front lunge towards the table, pick it up, and then you rotate your legs and set it on another table that was 180 degrees behind you. Or the cross-legged get-up, where you just sitting on the ground, legs crossed. You may or may not have a weight on you, and then you not simply get up. There is a method to it, but fundamentally you're just standing up. Then another odd position one would be the medicine ball squat and reach. Or lunge and reach. So you have the medicine ball, you squat, and then you can extend your arms with a medicine ball either in front of you or diagonally, and so on. So there's just a lot of variations and methods to really train your back, fascia, and all that to support very odd positions. To begin with, though, I would just practice repetitions in your martial arts, though. Just train the judo, train the jits, train the boxing, and then slowly implement some of these exercises from there. And you'll probably want to just go body weight to get a feel for the motions, because some of them are very weird and will fatigue you very quickly just because you're not used to it. And before moving on, just want to mention that I do have a episode that is dedicated more towards talking about on position strength. So in that one, I do break it down more and give more examples of things you can do. And this is it for part 1 of our 7 types of strength. In part 2, we will cover the rest: maximum strength, endurance, relative strength, and starting strength. So I look forward to hearing your guys' stories about your journeys through strength and how you found them useful in your martial art training. Please comment below. And as always, I am Dylan, and this is the Adroit Dojo Podcast.